So here we are again with the Center for Education and Learning, the speaker series live. And I have the pleasure again to speak with Peter Maxwell-Slattery. Peter, welcome again.
Blessings, Henning, and it's good to be doing this. And what are we going into today, mate? You've got a couple more questions there, or a few.
Right. And we did something around that before, around contact or communication. And I thought, let's dig a little into something, and I comment that here, contact or communication modalities. And the first one, I would like to ask you about what can you share about operations and missions?
All right. This very layered topic, but I'll do a simplification of this, going back to a book that I wrote 12 years ago, I think it is now, Operation Starseed. We as beings, as cells of God's body, as children of God's source creator, we go out within it to experience, to glean knowledge, to lose ourselves, to refine ourselves through an ascension process, all aspects. And what was revealed to me at the time of writing that book years ago and coming up with the terminology Operation Starseed is, I thought, using an analogy for a military operation. Let's say you're going into a military zone. You're dropping the troops off. The troops are by themselves in some situations, and this is one of them. We feel like we've just been dropped off. And we could say there's planes and helicopters and drones that are doing support from the peripheral, which is like our spirit team, extraterrestrials. Because really, it's not only just extraterrestrials we're connected to and ascended beings that can be extraterrestrials, we're also connected to angelics and higher forms of intelligences that, to me, working with thousands of people, I see a whole team around each person. And it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's everything of all sorts, meaning everything from past spirits to extraterrestrial spirits to sometimes fairies and elementals and Bigfoot and things that we don't even have an earthly reference for, up to and including higher dimensional and density operating extraterrestrials going into angelic intelligences, as well as God's source creator. So if we use this analogy that we've incarnated to play a part within humanity, right? So you incarnate into the earth experience, and you are here to assist, not just to experience as a pinpoint of source's awareness, to experience and glean knowledge for the overall collective of God's source creator, as you as an individual cell of that consciousness, but also, due to many circumstances, going into draconian, archonic, and what we could say is lower light intelligences to fallen Elohim, as well as there's positive ones, which I believe our highest expression is an Elohim being. I believe us all, on the highest expression as cells of God's body, is an Elohim being. So, to bring it down, yes, we've got one mission of going out within source and experiencing and gleaning knowledge for the overall collective, which has to be done individually and from a different point of awareness. Like two people could go through the same experience, but they're going to experience it differently. That's gleaning knowledge for source by it being done. Slightly different for each person. But due to these lower intelligences, we could say with a negative agenda to trap, store and use the energy from a lower frequency that's being produced here through lower experiences, lower vibratorial states, which is what they're wanting to create and distributing AI throughout systems. What's happened in terms of a mission, Operation Starseed, beings have come that have done the hard work, that have experienced the hard yards and have the experience. They have come here to incarnate into the human experience to help uplift the human experience. Now, why can't the beings just come and fix everything? We've got a rule here in universal law where beings cannot directly interfere. So what's happened is you've got draconian, archonic, lower Elohim intelligences that are manipulating and overshadowing beings and manipulating from behind the scenes. So in a way, they're not directly influencing, they're doing it behind the scenes to where it plays out in the physical. To counteract that, enlightened beings that are in line with the awakening healing of humanity in the earth thought, how do we get around this? And the concept is those who have come for the calling chose to go, all right, well, we can't do what they're doing and be as effective in the same way to counteract. How about we incarnate into the human and play a part within humanity to help uplift humanity? So you've got your own individual experience here, again, gleaning knowledge, experiencing for the overall collective and God Source Creator and for your own soul evolution. But then we could say this is also a mission that some have here at this time. And there's many other missions where people are here to assist with the energetic grid and constructs of the planet and distributing the energy and bringing higher energies to the ley lines and the grids and the ancient sites. There are things where people's soul light activates ancient sites and libraries, ethereal libraries and information. And sometimes if they go and visit a place, they may get these massive downloads that their soul, once we could say, stored that information then for it to be activated at a certain time later on, which this is done for many people visiting different ancient sites, that it's not even done in that way in some cases. It's stored information, and those who have risen to the occasion and who are at a certain level of development, that information is for them that may not even be understood at the time but at a later time. Going into this as well, like in terms of the missions, there are some that I've experienced as well as others that I've spoken to, and I've alluded to this before, of being in certain operations of an earthly extraterrestrial nature, to where how it was explained to me is that some of these bases with humans, DUMs and what have you, deep underground military bases, as well as off-world meeting places, off-world bases, Mars as an example, they have trans-dimensional technologies that can block out remote viewing, they can block out remote influencing, they can block out bilocation and teleportation and other means of spying to an extent. And because of that, as it was once explained to me by the Elohim, is that souls will go into these projects not even understanding why they're a part of it, can even partake or be tortured in some instances like mine for information. And what's happening is you experiencing everything in that base is going into soul memory. When you leave, you can get picked up by your team, the Elohim in my case and others, and they take that data, which gives them intel. But in some cases, the transdimensional technology is that good that blocks out spying, meaning from the good guys, to try and figure out what the other guys are doing. That information is now derived from, in some cases, super soldiers or people part of a space program or what have you. I've not been part of any of that. I've had people say that they've seen me on missions and things like that, well-known people in the community, but from my standpoint, what I know is that they were taking me to try and use certain types of technologies and devices to understand what I know and what I've experienced. But it was also relayed to me at a later time that a lot of super soldiers and people part of these programs, they've got almost like a double spy mission for their team, as well as doing what they're doing here on Earth. And one not knowing what the other's doing, in some cases, meaning there can be sometimes multiple beings on a soul level connected to them, using the person that's going into the projects as a spy, experiencing that, bringing up the data and giving it to them. But sometimes these groups don't know of each other. And sometimes that can be happening on the 3D level, that multiple operations, military type space operations, are unaware that somebody's being used by multiple we could say components of certain forces or forces that have got nothing to do with each other, or they're counteracting each other's missions and things like that. It's a very complex thing. I just like I've said a billion times, I hope I'm just making sense here and it's integratable, because it's very convoluted and very multifaceted and fractal in nature of everything that I've just described.
Oh, thank you, Peter. And I think, let's say, operations from a military perspective with one goal, and let's say other operations, and call it kind of counterintelligence or whatever, that certainly is a reality. But anyway, let's get into a second modality or way of this, how contact is being established and communication is facilitated or made, and it's ambassadors. And I want to say you did, and others are doing that, offering ambassador training. And the other thing is you also wrote about this, we can say JG, I think an ambassador, right? I mean, what can you share about that? So ambassadors.
Yeah, so like even with myself, you could say that with the Shiji material and also the ERC, the Elohim Representative Council, but I always say we are all ambassadors. And if you've got yourself right, you're not only an ambassador of you and your own internal being, but you're a representative for the species that you're incarnated in at that time and experiencing, in this case, Earth. I think that's what it sort of comes down to, is having yourself right at optimal efficiency in all areas. Now, of course, things like meditation, self-mastery, self-inquiry, and different things with energy work, whether it's using yoga, whether it's actually working with your energetic channels in different ways, or it could be the Dantians, or light blueprint work, working with your geometric template, Merkaba, the rainbow bodies, different things. You only interface with that which you are at the level to reach. And in most cultures, extraterrestrial, they usually, as a collective, choose not the representative, but representatives to represent their civilization. And at these levels, usually, depending on the civilization, that is depending on the soul, the energy. Meaning, as I've said to people many times, can you deal with interfacing with another intelligence? I know from first hand, I can't tell you how many times, when you're interfacing with these intelligences, they can read everything about you. The loving beings, they don't care about anything. They've got love, compassion, and non-judgment. The negative beings will use those, we could say, past vices, chink in your armour, traumas, wrong conclusions, judgments. It's like putting their finger in it if it's a bullet hole in you and exacerbating it and trying to get you to, we could say, react to those past things. What my point is with this is when ambassadors are chosen, we could say, for civilizations, their inner work is done that good that the whole civilization can read them like a book, and they, because of that, they want these people, the beings that they choose to represent their civilization, because they may have gone through hard times, good times, but they've got a good energy and a good being about them, and everyone can read them like a book. Right? So my thing is, can you handle being read like a book when you're interfacing with these intelligences? Yes, there's some 3D extraterrestrials that aren't at that level yet. Very similar to us, some less evolved, some more evolved, that aren't full-blown telepathic yet. But as you go through, we could say, dimensional states and densities, which is densities, levels of consciousness, dimensions, we could say, are the realms within, residing inside each density that we go and experience. It's depending on your frequency that you're operating at, that usually what I've experienced in some cases, they'll clump, let's say, 3D beings together in meetings, and then there might be beings from a higher density or a conglomerate of different energies from different densities that will come in, that when those beings come in, it's all in a new level. Sometimes they might use a representative for them, that's easier to work with energetically and telepathically to pass on the messages. But if they really wanted to, they can interface with that whole group, depending on the consciousness. There's some beings that can see through the eyes of everyone in the city at one time if they wanted to. Like, this is where you're operating out a linear mind in a state when you can do that. So even with me, when I'm interfacing, I can be looking at some of these beings. In my mind's eye, while my eyes are open looking at them, I'm getting flickers of imagery of what they're wanting to tell me, or relay to me, or show me. And I'm also getting thought and feelings to every single flicker of that information. So it's very much like we could say a trans-dimensional download, that you get every single part of that. So to me, the ambassador thing, it's trying, from my perspective, to give as many tools as I can and show different ways of meditation, of intention, because through intention, like James Gilliland's been doing intention experiments for many years, going back to before Art Bell show, but he did it on the Art Bell show and other things, where through the intention to put out to communicate, you've got other people now, it's under the term of CE5. One of my best-selling books is the CE5 Initiating Contact book, with a lot of the modalities and techniques within it, though at the Sanctuary I go a lot more laid into it. But it's through getting you right. Your diet, your exercise, your health, your mindset, being the best version of you, healing from the past experiences and what doesn't serve you, and being the best version of you. And they come to you. It's like the frequency you're at, you're going to match that frequency. You're at a lower frequency, you can bring in attachments and dark energies. So when we're going into ambassador status, my thing's not just being ambassador to, come on, Space Brothers, come on down. It's, hey, you being the best version of you, and that's you being an ambassador of your soul. But also now you can do that for the collective. And we could say, why me? With the experiences I've had, I've still got no idea. I've got a lot of past life recall, things like that. I'm just a guy or a being that incarnated into a young boy in Australia, in a small town. Nothing special about me. But through conditioning and those that can handle certain conditions, and that can handle the ups, the downs, good opportunities, bad opportunities, circumstances unforetold that are pushed upon people, those that can rise above those challenges and still see themselves as a child as God, and see themselves with God and commune with the divine and put that first and foremost, I believe that sets an example of not just soul evolution, but also to others around them and others in their civilization of being the best version of them, whether it's religious or this, that, the other. I don't want to get complicated here. So I know that's like a roundabout way. We've gone in many different tangents, but that's sort of, like I say, none of this is black and white, and the grey area is beyond 50 sitting there in the middle, if you understand my little joke there.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. There's a lot again in there. And let's move to the third aspect or item. And maybe this is the thing most can somehow relate to. And it's communication, or getting somehow the sense, there's something different in terms of maybe that is contact. Meaning, share some information about the, let's call it, modality of experiencing dreams, own dreams.
Funny you mentioned this, because I was just talking about this with somebody today. So, Mary Rodwell, a good friend and mentor, I call her Mama Starseed. She said something to me once, and I don't know if don't quote me, I think maybe John Mack may have said something similar as well, the former researcher in the community, well known, who's no longer with us. But it's if you remember your dreams upon the awakening state like you remember them, they're not a dream. Dreams, the normal classification would be that you forget about them upon the awakening state. When you remember your dreams, they're not dreams. That we could say they're multidimensional experiences. Now, from my perspective, what I add in here is that your human brain are operating at 5, 7, 10% at the moment. It's not at full capacity. And what happens from some of the intel that I've got is that if it's such a far out transdimensional experience, your brain's not going to be able to decode it. So what happens is you are left with made up experiences that are made in such a way to give you symbolic information that upon the awakening state, as you know it's another experience, or so you think, is leaving you with seeds of information and intel, whether it's as a heads up, things to act upon, a number of different things. So what's happening is you're having these experiences, and sometimes, yes, they are the dream state experience on board a craft, seeing manted beings, greys, Nordic beings, reptilians, angelics, the list goes on and on. They can actually be the experience as it is, but sometimes the experiences can be so far out that the brain will not decode it, therefore fake experiences are made up that is symbolic to leave you with information. You wake up and this is what you've experienced, what you've experienced, or you think you've experienced. So this is why I say to people, don't get attached too much, though dreams are more than dreams. And sometimes on the experience and level of illusion, who's right in the illusion and who's wrong in the illusion, you experience what you experience. So in that case, that isn't misleading. It's the best way they can get some information through. Again, this is only with some dreams. There is an aspect with this too, with sleep paralysis. So sleep paralysis, there is that, but there's also the aspect of this being part of the contact phenomena. I've said many times to people that sometimes if you're coming to in the morning, you've had a dream, and it was, let's say, a type of experience. Well, what can happen is when you're coming back into the body, the non-physical aspect of you with the physical body are trying to merge, and we could say, hijack the weaning of that happening in to resonate again by waking up and you're in a paralysis state. Sometimes it could be your spirit team, ETs and angels that will give you paralysis to stop you freaking out due to unforeseen circumstances of you maybe waking up during transdimensional communication from a higher self or a non-physical aspect contact with them. Even though they could be physically there in the room and maybe momentarily bring you on board a craft that's overlapping you in your bed. That's an example. I've talked about how the crafts can land on you and vibrate you on board, and they could put you in an avatar, or you could just be consciously on board and you're not even going anywhere. They're overlapping you. There's also the other aspect. So many times I've assisted people and talked with people about this, that you have a very, very extreme dark dream, an attack, which could be demonic, archonic, reptilian, lower light Elohim intelligences, that scare and give you a fearful, traumatic experience in the dream state to hijack that energy and derive that energy from you, and try to even also mislead you and give you misinformation and mislead your experiences. Then you wake up and you're paralyzed in a paralysis state, and you feel a dark energy around you. That's a different level. So all the other stuff I was saying, that's forms of contact that can happen with the dream state, and it sometimes not being what it is, to have a way of giving you a reference and information from a transdimensional state. When it's dark intelligences, they will do some of the stuff that I'm talking about, and sometimes even of a sexual nature, because a lot of the, let's say, reptilians, they work through the bottom 3 chakras. And so this is where I've had many people come to me to where they've had horrific encounters of that type of nature before as well. People from different parts of Australia and the world even being able to grab the entity and not see them and describe the exact same things, which I don't really talk about because it's a marker for me of the type of entity. And also, it's very trippy when you get the same reports from around the world. So there is a positive and negative to this. This is why even if you talk to your spirit team before you go to bed, and God Source Creator, which I put God first and foremost, of in the sleep time, for you to experience and or do whatever is for your highest good and for God Source vehicle, for you to be a vehicle for God Source Creator to work through, to bring in the protection, to bring in the communication from your spirit team if it's warranted and needed, because we do need to do a lot of this off our own back. And you can crystal grid, you can burn sage or incense, keeping your place clean. There's a number of different things that can assist with keeping the frequency high to help prevent darker experiences. But these things are going to happen no matter who you are, on and off, even if it is once a blue moon, because when you shine that much light, these entities get drawn to that light because they want to derive that, because they're void of light. So again, I know it's a bit over the map there in dreams, but I hope this has been somewhat enlightening, Henning, on maybe different perspectives that people are unaware of the dream experience.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to add two more things. One, for everyone to keep in mind, all probably languages were or have been manipulated.
Yes.
And the second thing is, well, this is terminology as best as we can use it, or how to express some things, or how to express ourselves. And keep also in mind, the language is only one aspect, and how we can decode or can express by writing, by speaking, by using our mind. But ultimately, it's about using everything. A holistic, I would say, understanding, a kind of holistic comprehension, and I hope it's beneficial for all.
Now, good points like intention, feeling, thoughts, our speak, words, spelling, spells, right? That's cast spells. All these things have an effect. So it's almost like check yourself before you wreck yourself, the old saying, because these things have a huge effect, not just only on ourselves, but our environment, and also those we surround ourselves with, and also on a quantum level as well. So if you're aware of your speech, if you're conscious that you're aware, and you're aware that you're conscious of your thoughts and your ideas and your feelings, and is this mine, is it not mine? These are things part of the self-mastery experience. And once you can be aware of those things, now you've got a chance to co-create with Source in a way that's beneficial, but you will have your trials and tribulations. But I think they were fantastic points, Henning.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
No, thank
and
you.
Again, all the best for I said that before. All of us are encouraged, let's say, to use our best abilities. I think this is what everyone strives for, to some extent, to do whatever he, she likes, be best at, and whatever that is. But in any case, I wish all the best and wish all well, because this is what we all should have and strive for in our lives. And I hope, and again wish it is getting better and better. So again, thank you, Peter, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Yeah, likewise. Many blessings, Henning. Thank you.